Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are coming on. Thank you all so much for joining on another episode of Career Journeys with Coach Stella. I am your host, Coach Stella, and you are in for a wonderful, wonderful journey ahead with us today. Today, I have the wonderful, multi talented Jesse Anabanum with us today to talk through his career. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
How you doing? How you doing, Coach Stella? How you doing, audience? I really appreciate this opportunity and this opportunity to take the time out to talk through these career journeys because it's a really important piece, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Absolutely. Well, I am so excited to delve in. So let's waste no time. All right. So the first question I have for you is just a general introduction. If you could tell us about yourself, your background, and anything that you think would be helpful as folks delve into your journey.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So a little bit about myself. Name's Jesse and Abenham. I born and raised Silver Spring, Maryland. Silver Spring, Maryland is home to me. And Yeah, I have a short background and a long background actually. I started my career in sports. I started to have a long, extensive sports background and grew up in Silver Spring and played football and had actually started with a lot of different sports. I played baseball, played soccer, played ran track, a whole bunch of different things. And yeah, and so yeah, as I started growing in my journey, played football, carried on, and took over. And so that's what I was able to carry on for, and had a pretty successful career, and that got to the professional level, and which ultimately led me into my passion for training and my passion for just sports performance and general fitness and just lifestyle fitness in general. And so that led me into what I do today as a sports performance and fitness coach and trainer. And yeah, and so that's where I'm at right now.
I am muted. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I am so excited to unpack this journey.
Yes.
Um, so let's bring it back to the beginning. So, born and raised Silver Spring, Maryland. Talk to me about childhood. What was it as a child? What did you envision? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. I wanted to be a lot of different things growing up. I would say growing up, having Nigerian in a Nigerian household, having that as my background as well. One of the biggest things that I kind of had my eyes on was being somewhere in the medical field. As you know, I have a lot of family within that are amongst the medical field and do different things. And so, that was kind of high up for me. I mean, you could ask like, my parents when I was a kid, every time they would ask what I want to be, like a doctor, a doctor, I want to help people. And I think the biggest thing around it was helping people. I think that was something that was innate in me. So, yeah. I mean, I would say from a youngest age, I wanted to just be in the medical field, be a doctor. And, as time went on, it started developing and evolving different things.
Okay, awesome. So, medical field, also growing up in a Nigerian household, definitely the number one occupation, the dream. And so, talk to me about you said in your intro that you started in a variety of different sports. When did sports enter your life? And talk to me about how what shifted as far as your adult vision.
I think sports have just always been a pivotal part of my life. Sports have been something that have kind of kept me grounded in what I felt like my purpose was. I was always athletic as a kid, and I was running around playing with friends outside, doing different things, and I fell into, not necessarily fell into, but my parents actually were the ones to introduce me to just being active in different sports, seeing how active I was as a kid. And so, my first sport starting out, I played soccer. I must have been like 5 years old, and then I was in a little soccer camps. And then my transition, I played baseball, and then I started running track, and then played basketball as well, because I got tall as a young kid. So, they threw me and dad. They were like, "Oh, we have some hoop dreams now." So it was just a long line of different things that they just wanted to keep me active in, and just knowing that he's active in this way, and so he has potential to be successful in these different things, in these different sports. And so that's kind of how they came along. My parents definitely helped and pushed me into that. Um, and yeah, and then football kind of came around towards actually high school. I didn't start playing football, which ended up being my professional career up until high school. So that was also a little different for me at the time, but it really helped me in my sports journey.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Okay, so that's interesting. So football came into your life in high school.
Right.
So
Yeah. Mhm.
and it, you had a long career within that industry. So talk to me about that. What pushed you towards football, and give me some highlights of what that journey was like for you in high school.
Yeah, yeah. I think there was a few different factors that was pushing me towards football. I had family that played football. I had a lot of friends that were around me that played football, and it was something that was more of an interest of mine growing up through playing sports. But at a certain point, and also, my parents, my mother, she was a little weary about me going and playing football specifically because it's more of a rough sport and higher injury risk and everything. And so they kind of probably held off on my interest in that early on. But over time, it just the opportunities started to become more apparent. I had, some friends that were playing at the time too, that whose parents were also big advocates for me to play as well. And so, they kind of were able to push the conversation a little bit more with my parents as well. And so, and the high school that I ended up going to is a pretty prestigious school as far as academics and sports. So it was something that highlighted true potential to themselves, my parents and myself. And so when the decision came down to it and me wanting to pick high schools or where to go, the school that I went to, Good Counsel High School, was at the top of the list, and just based off of connections that we had of people that we already knew that were there, and then having a good network that was already there, but then also the potential within sports and what they saw in me as well. And so that took over at the time, and the rest was history from there. And so I went to the council. I started playing football. My freshman year at the council was my first year ever picking up a helmet, ever doing anything with football. And so that was a big learning curve, especially because I was at an age where I was starting to really develop, even within sports, but in life in general. And then I immediately fell in love with it, and grew such a passion for it, with everything that it did for me mentally, physically, and all of the above. And so yeah, football really just became my muse at that point.
Wow, that's amazing. First time picking up a helmet freshman year, ninth grade. We know we're getting to college, but that landed you an athletic scholarship. Talk to me about, because I'm in the student athlete. I'm in a household of student athletes. I'm just gonna put that out there. And
Right.
I, even at my children's early age, am seeing this is a culture, this is a lifestyle. Talk to me about the student athlete mindset and what that experience was like for you in high school.
Yeah, no, the with that, the student athlete mindset for me, I mean, it was something that I feel like shaped me into a lot of being who I am today, and being and having the different things that I have, as far as tools, that help me progress in life. And that student athlete mindset just really just comes from your ability be to really be resilient, I think. And that resilience is built with the discipline that we have to learn from having to wake up, go to have your morning training sessions or morning workouts at 5 a.m., and then going having meetings at 6:30, then having practice right after that for 2 hours, and then having to come in and shower and then be ready for your first class at 9, and then having an entire day after that, and just being able to be locked in to that degree and to that level is something that you really have to build that mental and physical armor to be able to do. And it's something that I commend every student athlete, no matter what sport you're in, because it's all the same. We all have to dig and tie in those deep responsibilities into our young lives. And we are young. It's like, especially as I'm older now and like thinking back, I'm like, no, we were young, and having to be able to balance all of that and be successful through that.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. So with that, with the acknowledgement, and thank you for being transparent in what a daily schedule looked like for you and how early it was for you,
right.
at such a formative development, a formative stage, for you in being in high school. Can you talk to me about the importance of mentors and coaches? Like who was in your orbit during that time to keep you grounded and focused?
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. It's a great question too, because I think that we don't give enough credit to the people that help shape us to be who we are. There's so many people. They say that it takes a village to raise somebody, and that grows into further than just adolescent years. Even when you're in your young adult years, there's still so many things. We have coaches all throughout life. You know what I mean? You have Coach Stella written right there. It's like there's coaches that that transcend on all phases and all seasons of our lives. And I feel like having that type of connection with people that you do trust, that you do believe in, that believe in you at the same time around you is so important. And I had that in a lot of different points in my life and a lot of different points in my career, and especially in those times, and from my high school transition into college, from an athletic standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint, mental standpoint, and just from everything. I've had people along the way that really helped me through that time, especially within football too. You know what I mean? Our coaches are more than just coaches. Our coaches, they're good with the X's and O's of things. They're good with um, teaching us how to play the game, but they're also there to teach us how to be men as well. And I'm in a male sport, and I'm sure the same can be said for a woman in women's sports. And so it goes along to say that this it's so important to have those type of figures in our life, to help develop us into who we are, like what type of lives that we want to live. And I still hold true to a lot of those people that were there for me in that time, those times. Yeah.
All right, sorry about that. I think I got cut off for a second there, but I think
No,
we're back. Can you
my
hear me?
yeah, I don't. I want to grab my charger. I don't want my thing is actually dying. I thought that it was
Okay, we will pause for the cause. Go ahead.
2 seconds. Yeah.
No worries. All right, for those of us who are just joining in, thank you all so much for joining in with Career Journeys. I am your host, Coach Stella, and we have the wonderful and fabulous Coach Jesse Anabanum coming on to share his career journey with us. So, as he is going to deal with his tech issues, let me just recap everyone on where we've been thus far in this journey. So, Coach Jesse, born and raised in Silver Spring, Maryland, has always had athletics on his mind and in his life. Parents enrolled him very early on in sports. He started off at soccer, then later on transitioning to baseball. And it wasn't until high school, this was a very interesting fact here in his journey. It wasn't until high school, ninth grade, that he picked up a helmet, and fell in love with the sport of American football. that actually led to a athletic scholarship that perfect timing, Jesse, as we transition to from high school, your student athlete experience in high school
Yes.
to college. Talk to me now. I know the journey from as a student athlete from high school to collegiate sports is night and day. But let's talk about the selection process. What did recruitment look like for you, and what led to your ultimate decision to attend your university?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the recruitment process was something that was also like a culture shock. I mean, something that was so new, so fresh to me, just because just having not been through a lot of like the youth league cycles and different things like that for football specifically, I just wasn't super aware of how it was gonna go or how it was gonna feel. Rather, I think I had a good idea of how it would look, especially being at the school that I attended. And, we had a lot of great recruits, a lot of great athletes that went through that school. And so I was able to see a lot of different people get recruited and go through that process and kind of just, from a Woosah standpoint, like, oh, wow, like, that's kind of crazy as, a little freshman coming in. And, at that point, I still had a lot of good confidence in myself as an athlete. So I knew that, no matter what sport I picked up, that I was going to, go far with it or just do as much as I could with it. So it was more of an admiration thing that I was like, oh, okay, wow, like that's, going to be something that I'm going to go through one day. And, I just have to roll with the punches when it does come around and be prepared for that. And when it did, it kind of happened really fast. It kind of was something that, just really just jumped out and was like a, shell shock really. And I would say it was right around my junior year. It was my junior year that I got my first offer. And from there, it was kind of like the floodgates open. And then my first offer was actually Auburn. And so, that was like kind of a big deal for me. And so, once you get a deal like that, kind of the floodgates kind of open after that. And everyone's going to start like, oh, who's this kid? We got to start looking at him and recruit him. So I got the Auburn offer first, and then the school that I actually went to, Maryland, was my second offer. And so that was the offer that I originally had wanted first, because that was a school that, I was the most familiar with and that I looked up to and that I knew people at even at the time. And so when I got the Maryland offer, that was really cool for me. But then again, like the floodgates were opening and the recruiting had just bubbled. And, I was getting recruited left and right. And, I was a 4-star, 5-star recruit. And so it was kind of at a point where, I had to learn fast, how to deal with being recruited as a young kid. I mean, it wasn't anything I had dealt with at the time. So, I was I was really honed in on just trying to keep my cool, not do too much, and just roll with trusted people again around me that I knew that had my back and that would kind of guide me through that process.
Awesome. Thank you for delving into that. And one thing I appreciate you sharing is how um how you took advantage of behind the scenes access to see how it's done. So it's the high school you went to was one that, had the structure, had a robust program. And because of that, even though you came in to the sport late, you were within such an amazing program that you had an opportunity, it sounds like since freshman year, to shadow and see what was on the horizon for you as far as recruitment season.
Mhm.
Um, so much so that even when it did happen, even though it happened really fast, you knew you had some idea of what to expect.
Mhm. Right.
Um, the other piece I want to throw out there, and I just want to throw out there because I had the privilege of witnessing this process see for you firsthand.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I appreciated with you is how intentional you were in your selection process. I remember a whiteboard. Uh, I
I
remember a
still have that
whiteboard,
whiteboard.
and I remember all the colleges, and you had pros and cons, and I won't tell you what the contents of the pros and cons were,
Hey, we don't need to talk about that one. Don't worry. That was young 17, 18-year-old Jesse trying to, figure it out.
But it was young 17, 18-year-old, already critical thinking, being very intentional with setting yourself up for success. So I just wanted to name that out there. I work with a lot of um 17, 18-year-olds who are getting ready to make such important decisions. And I always talk to them about, listen, bust out the chart, pros and cons, yes, it's the name, but is this the right fit for you? So I just wanted to commend you that early on you knew that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I appreciate that. It really was something that I feel like too. I commend my parents for it too, and just like this helping with that preparation process and this the understanding of how to be organized with my decision making. I think I was just the biggest thing was just not being fly by with having a decision like that because that's a huge decision to make. And so with having the options that I did and being blessed enough to be in that position, like you can't take anything like that for granted and think that you don't have to put your full effort into making those decisions and sticking with them too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
All right, so college sports.
Mhm.
Coach Jesse, let's I know you could write a book on it, your journey, your
Oh,
college
man.
athletic journey.
Man,
So
can I? Yeah.
let's do some highlights. Let's do
Mhm.
some highlights. What were some takeaways from your collegiate experience?
Oh, man, I think some takeaways is just, being some of my biggest highlights was having such a strong team unit, going into a lot of the situations that I had to deal with and face, during that time, good and bad, I think that it's not lost on any athlete how the importance of a locker room and the importance of having real bonds in a locker room that help elevate you on the field. And I think it's sometimes maybe sound a little cliche to say, but I think that as athletes, and as humans in general, we're herd animals, and so we are meant to be together. We're meant to be on a team and to be able to solve tasks together as a team, and that's all sports is. And so I think that I had a really privileged experience of being on a team that on teams, multiple teams, because that team changed and evolved. That um, really spoke true to that, and we stuck together. We fought through a lot together, and it was a really great time in my life for sure.
Awesome. So I want to talk through one experience you had in your collegiate, and you talked earlier about how the sport of football had built your resilience. So you suffered an injury very early on in your collegiate experience. Can you talk me through what that journey was for you and your comeback?
Mhm. Yeah, so actually, I broke my ankle. That was a huge injury in my college career. Happened against Texas. This was 2017, my true senior year. So it happened against Texas, and it was my first game of the season actually. And so that was something that was a big shocker to my collegiate career. Because I had gone up until that point uninjured and hadn't missed a game up until that point. Um, and I had not played in a game because my freshman year I played in every single game. I started a few, and so it was something that was a real big shell shock to me, because I hadn't ever dealt with anything like that, and it was something that I had to learn a lot about myself, as an athlete, but myself as a man as well during that time, because it wasn't just football that I was affected, it was life. And you think you get injured on the field and it's just like, oh well, now I can't play football for a little bit. But no, you can't play football, you can't practice, you can't do every normal day life things. It's hard, that you don't really think about, because as we're these big athletes, we think that we're Superman at times. And so And when you get humbled in that way, it really brings you back to reality to be like, okay, let's kind of step back and go to the drawing board, and also reveals a lot about yourself and how you handle adversity, because that's not the type of adversity that anybody expects to go through. You know, your life is kind of flipped upside down. And in my situation, it was the first game of the season, and I had just was just coming off of a stellar season the year before that, and so it was something that really threw me into a pit, and that I had to break out of, or find ways to break out of that. Again, kind of went full circle back to my circle, my people, and them allowing me to and helping me through that time, which was really needed.
Yeah, leaning on on your village during
Yeah.
that time is one of the things that brought you out.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so talk to me about what the comeback looked like, and then let's also transition to your first professional career path. But before we get to that, I want to also give space to the academic side of your student athletic experience. What did you major in, and what was the academic side? How were you able to prioritize academics and sports at Maryland?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that coming into Maryland, knowing that how good of a school that Maryland was academically as well, I thought that it would serve me right to just choose a major that I felt like I had interest in, but also could present some good opportunities down the road. So I actually did initially come into to Maryland as a kinesiology major, and through time, through like it was probably like my freshman year, I realized that the demands of kinesiology major and what I was demanded for in football were just not aligning at the time. So I actually ended up changing that major, and I ended up going to another major, which wasn't, I wouldn't say necessarily so much easier, but it was something that gave me a little bit more interest, that I had a little bit more interest in, and that was a psychology. And then I double majored in family science as well. So I ended up graduating with a family science and psychology degree, and so that also kind of helped shaped a lot of things within my career athletically too, because then I was able to have something that kept me structured academically too. I was able to learn and be in something that I was interested in, and could help with the flow of my sports path too as well. So that was definitely a good path for me, I would say, at the end of the day.
Awesome.
Mhm.
All right. So, senior year, you suffered an injury.
Mhm.
Talk me through what the next chapter was for you after that, after recovery.
Mhm. Yeah, so after that, I ended up missing that entire season. So that was my true senior season. So I missed the whole season because of the injury, and so I had to basically the whole year I was in recovery. It was been around like a 10-month recovery for me from that. It was this compound fracture in my ankle, and so yeah, the process coming back from that was I was granted fifth year of eligibility from the school, and so I was able to come back from my fifth season and play, since I missed out on my fourth season. And so that was something that I just wanted to make sure I took advantage of, and take that opportunity, knowing that, okay, well, hey, you came off of a good year, you missed an entire year now, and so the ball is not as much in your favor. So you have to be able to be consistent and just step up to the plate now, knowing that you're healthy, you've done the things that you needed to do to get better, and so now it's your time to go do something. And so I went out and played for my fifth season. That was 2018, and yeah, and so that healing process was grueling. It was crazy. It was definitely something that I don't know at the time that I was prepared for, but I learned, like I said, I was saying, I learned a lot through. And when I did eventually recover from that injury, it was kind of in my mind of like, okay, well, now you have to make a decision. Like, are you going to step up and step forward and do what you have to do to get back on the field and be 100% again, or are you going to let these things take you back? Because I actually did end up having to get a second surgery from that initial injury, and I just because we had to go in and do a scope and take some things out. So that kind of prolonged the process of recovery for me. I went back that following spring to get a second surgery, and so it was again a long healing process. And so just from that, I had to make a lot of mental decisions on how I was going to step up and move forward and be better. As an athlete and as a person, and I think that I really had the right placements and people around me to do that.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, such a major injury to rebound from. I mean, you talked about resilience and how it shaped you. So we're literally hearing that journey of how how you built the resilience. So talk us through the next chapter for you, and you graduate, um, and eligibility is over.
Yeah.
What was your next professional move?
Yeah, so I went on after that. I played my last season. I had a decent season, didn't have as good a season as I did my previous season that I played. But I finished the season healthy, which was a blessing, and I got through it. And I went on to still have some interest in going into the NFL draft, and so that was my next focus. I went on to then start preparing for the NFL draft. I did my pro day training with my now coworker and longtime mentor, Coach Myron Flowers, and he helped me prepare for my pro day and to get ready for that next step. And I was at that point, very motivated and ready to just take that next step and just trusting my abilities, trusting my training, and trusting everything that like kind of helped me get to that point, which ended up actually paying off. And so I didn't get drafted in that following draft, but I ended up as a undrafted free agent signee, preferred signee to the Houston Texans. And I actually was, got word that I was going to Houston before the draft was even over, and so they had their eyes on me, but unfortunately they weren't able to draft me. And so I would, had good conversations with them, and ended up signing to them as an undrafted free agent, and to start my professional career, and was able to make it to that point in my career and touch the NFL, which was a very special experience for me as well and shaping. And yeah, and so that's how my professional career started, which then was, again, I'm sure we'll start getting into that, but then I had a lot of different bouts within injuries and within different pitfalls and getting cut and things through that as well. And so that was definitely part of my story as well.
Yes, and while I wanna acknowledge that that also was its own book and journey, I
Mhm.
just wanna pause for the cause, right? And just acknowledge the journey that the rebound, the I don't the comeback, don't call it a comeback, but it's a comeback, you
Mhm.
know, a broken ankle, 2 surgeries, and your village, leaning on your village, mentors, and coaches to along with yourself, you talked about how you had to ask yourself, okay, what are we doing, you
Mhm.
know and have that honest conversation with yourself. But then as a result of it, the grind, the effort landed you in the NFL.
Mhm.
I mean, can we just pause and acknowledge that?
Yeah.
How strong of not only your physical ability, but your mindset, because I know the road back was not easy. I
Mhm.
mean, that for most people, that would be a career-ending injury,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
In a
know?
lot of cases, and I really appreciate that acknowledgement. As we don't think about it as much as we could or should, especially because when sometimes your career doesn't pan out at the fullest extent how you may have wanted to based on injuries or what have you or different things. But it is a blessing to be in this position to begin with, and to know that I've overcome the things that I did to be able to get to certain points when the odds are stacked against you. And just that resilience too is just something that really helps elevate me and motivate me for even what I do today and right now, because it's, I'm seeing a lot of that in a lot of the younger people that I train, even with my general fitness clients. Like, everybody's an athlete, and that's something that we'll probably get into. But that's to me, it's something that these things that we learn in sports help us in so many different ways in life and in our career paths.
Yeah. Yeah. So, for the sake of time, I want to jump into where you are today. So,
Mhm.
we know you touched the NFL, and you know that that was a journey. I may have to have you come back to tell us through that journey, because the resilience that you have now, it started, well, it started throughout your whole athletic career, but senior year, that's just the beginning. So, I may need to have you on for a part two to talk through that chapter.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to, because especially as a performance coach, you have firsthand knowledge of what that rebuild looks like. So talk to me about how you transitioned from the NFL to your current role right now.
Yeah, and so it was really just getting to the latter point of my professional career. I was a lot trying to figure out what to do. I was bouncing around different teams, battling injuries, and so I was really in the mindset of, okay, how am I going to make the most out of my off seasons, for one, but then also bring longevity to myself within my career. And so, something that I actually started doing within my off seasons and during free agency was training. And so I was living in the West Coast at the time, and I started freelance training and doing and while I was out there, and started a training business out of that. And it was something that I had learned and picked up from just the different tools that I had from my training experiences growing up, and especially through my mentors. One of the biggest ones being my mentor and Coach Myron Flowers. He was someone that who I work with now, who also has just been a big influence and impact in my training career and my athletic career, really. But then also now with what I wanted to do with training, and just seeing the importance of building a lifestyle out of training and working out, and not seeing it as much of a chore, but seeing it as something that benefits you in your longevity in life. And yeah, and so that transition was a lot easier for me to kind of see and be locked in on wanting to pursue that career path. And so while I was training out in the West Coast, I started playing again. Actually, it was West enough to start playing again, and then ended up experiencing another injury, which is, again, more stories, more layers. And so from there, I decided to transition fully into my training career. I moved back to the DMV area. This was early in 2024, and moved back to the DMV area. Started formed my LLC around my business, and then started more professionally training right alongside with my longtime mentor, Coach Flowers. And so that was something that I then at that point now was like, okay, well, now this is real. Now this is something that I really can build a business out of and be more present in the community with. Now being back in the area and having the resources and people around me again. And so from there, I just took it by storm and then rolled with it.
Awesome. So, I love a full circle moment. So
Mhm.
it sounds to me that, you've been all over. You transitioned as a result of transitioning from different teams, you've had an opportunity to travel the country. And in that traveling, the personal and professional development that you gained, in 2024, you made the decision to return back to the DMV area, and now growing your performance in training alongside your long term mentor. That's awesome. Awesome to hear. So talk to me about your clients and your training philosophy, and how have you turned your journey into motivation for others?
Yeah, and I think that it's just with my training journey. It's been developing very fast. I feel like, and I feel like I'm at a point where I think that with everything that I've learned, it's really helping me kind of curate who I am as a trainer and as a fitness coach. And I think right now with the my wide variety or the different variety of clients and people that I help train and coach and be around and it's really gotten to a point of where I feel like I found my niche in all of this and I think that I very much credit that to just having the foundational style of training that I had growing up. You know, I really focus on functional training, functional and dynamic movement, and strength training, and just having the good fusion of understanding the importance of functional training and importance of strength training along with that, and having good nutritional and health balance regimens, and being able to form all the different facets within training together to be able to form regimens for you that keep you mobile, keep you loose, don't prevent injuries. You know, there's no reason that people should be getting injured in the gym. That's the one thing that, you know, I really hone in on of like that you should be doing things in the gym that prevent you from being injured or prevent you from getting to points where you feel like you're immobile, because that's, you know, the point of it is to gain strength, to be mobile, to be loose and fluid, and that's what our bodies are meant for. They're machines, and so we really should treat it as such. And so yeah, and so that really is just built into my philosophy and into how I train and how I coach, and especially it's allowed me to be able to train a wide variety of people. You know, large portion and majority of my clients are women, and so, you know, with that, I attribute and attain a lot of the things that I do learn from my sports performance coaching and training background, and then also training and coaching present day, to be able to form and build programs and regimens that, you know, I'm not training you to be an athlete, I'm training you for life. That's something that my mentors would always say to us as well, that, you know, really spoke true to how we see and view training and see and view working out in general and just lifestyle fitness. You know, we're training you to be functional for life, and that transcends and goes past, you know, anything, any sport, any, you know, whatever that you may be doing. And so that philosophy has definitely helped be successful in this business.
I think a successful mindset aligns and coincides with an athletic mindset. So I definitely hear you when you say, you know, you're working on functionality and all that. I think there are a lot of skills that you learn and develop inside your training that you use for life.
Yeah.
So definitely agree with that. So again, with our time, Coach Jesse, thank you so much for joining us today. I just have a few last minute questions for you before we get into our lightning round.
Mhm.
What, and it's a two-part question. What does the future look like? What's your vision for the future? And what advice would you give someone who is looking to branch out into this career, or looking to go into the professional athletic realm?
Yeah, of course. Firstly, just for myself and for my future, I do plan. My hope is to definitely stay within the fitness industry. That's something that is a huge passion of mine at this point in life, and something that fitness and lifestyle coaching will always be a part of my brand. And expanding that, you know, my ultimate goal, for most any of us trainers, at the end of the day, my ultimate goal really is to be able to curate spaces and different and places that I'm able to bring people and trainers and athletes and general fitness and everyone together, such as very relatable to the gym that I work out right now, Domain Fitness and Performance. It's a very big testimony uh, to that um, process, and just, you know, having that fusion of general fitness and sports performance. And so ultimately, I just really want to curate spaces for that, you know, own gyms and be in the industry with while being able to help people, and you know, take that as far as I feel like is necessary within my communities, and being having that presence in my communities as well. And further than that too. So for your other question, I believe it was asking about my advice for people, pursuing this path and pursuing. I would say just to 100% be focused on your community and also 100% be as authentic as you can be within this, because I think that there's so many tools around us that people try to conform to rather than using and within their own realm and within their own strengths and passions. I think we all gifted. We're all given something that I feel like is going to help us be live within our purpose. And so we have those tools around us, and being diligent in seeing that, and understanding what it really means to use your gifts to have a presence in, within your within your talent or within your career, and using that and being confident in that too, and not being afraid to take a risk. There's so many things that we can say is, it's scary, or we don't want to do because X, Y, and Z might happen. But you really will never know until you actually step in and to try something new that you might not have done before, and you know to have different things that you can say, like, okay, like I'm doing that now, and I'm not going to look back at it after. So
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today with Career Journeys with the wonderful and multi-talented Coach Jesse Anavenum. Coach Jesse, for my parents out there,
Mhm.
what as a performance trainer, what are your thoughts on these uh, youth leagues and and kids focusing on one sport? What are your thoughts around that? What advice would you give us parents of student athletes?
um Put your kids in as many sports as possible. That's what I would say. I think if you're in the like elementary, middle school age, and you haven't necessarily decided on a sport that they're really going to stick to, which I don't think most kids do at that point yet. Depending on the sport, I would say put your kids in as many sports as possible. Let them develop the different modes of team mentality, and different nuances of that within different sports, and while they're developing at that age, and go from there. I think that was the best. That was something that I did, and that was something that I'm grateful my parents did for me. And I think it's definitely very shaping within a young athlete's life. And you'll be surprised how far they can go, and when they finally do pick that sport that they stick to, because they'll find it, they'll pick it.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, let's close out our time together today. I have some lightning round question. Top of mind thinking, don't think too hard. I just want to get some honest answers out of you. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. First question. What is a one morning ritual that you try never to break?
Making my bed.
Making your bed. Oh, I like that one.
Mhm.
Okay. Number two, a book that has made a huge impact or one that you keep coming back to?
I would say a book that my dad gave me, actually. It's called Things Fall Apart.
Oh, yes. All right. Number three, what is one song that automatically shifts your mood?
Man. Oh, lightning. Pyramids, Frank Ocean.
Okay. All right. All right. Oh, so much to unpack there.
Come on
All
now.
right.
Keep it
All right. All
coming.
right. Last question. Last question. All right. Complete this sentence. Lately, I'm learning to.
Be more present.
Okay. All right. Coach Jesse, it's been an honor to one, have you on for you to share your journey, and two, to have front row view into your journey. You are one of the many people I thought of when I developed this series,
Mm.
because everyday people have such amazing stories that if I think of my students that I work with today, if they can see it and hear it, they too can also dream and see themselves in it. So thank you so much for sharing. I hope to have you back on because the journey continues for you.
Yeah.
And for everyone tuning in, thank you so much for continuing the journey with us. Continue to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Career Journeys with Coach Stella. And if you or anyone from your network you would love to hear from, please feel free to reach out to me at coachstellaoc@gmail.com. Till next time, everyone, be safe and be well.